everyone, and welcome to Smells Like Teen Angst. We are here to talk about Pretty Little Liars Summer School, Episode 8, our Season 2 finale. As always, I am here with Keiki and Jordan. Say hello.
Hello.
Hi.
And I would just like to point out Jordan's dedication to this series and what we've been doing, and to all of you. She is not even here. She is not at home. She's out of town on vacation. And she's still logged in to do this today.
Oh, yeah. I was laying out by the pool and somebody's like, oh, how's your book you're reading? And I was like, no, I'm watching Pretty Little Liars. Don't worry about it.
Don't even, everything's fine. Before we get started, I just want to say thank you guys so much, all the new people, all the old people, for joining us again on this journey of Pretty Little Liars. It is one of our favorite almost summer shows that they always drop at this time. And we love talking about it together. We love talking about it with you. And hopefully you have subscribed to us, because we've got a lot more in store. We do a ton of reviews. We do a ton of videos. We have a podcast where we talk about books like The Hunger Games and Fourth Wing and stuff. So make sure you're subscribed, like our videos, and stay angsty with us. So before we if you watched last week's video, I forgot one person. I could not find their comment. And they did ask, they found me on Twitter and they were adorable. It's Brian Runyon, BJR12777, says, great video. Shame you weren't able to comment on my comments. Oh, well, we'll wait. So this is the one, Brian, who's like, I hope you can find a comment in your next Pretty Little Liars video. Who do you think Bloody Rose is? If I was a betting guy, my money would be on Martha, as she has been acting like Margaret White all season. Well, Brian, you are wrong in that, and we were partially right. So let's get diving into this episode. I know we're both all ready to just like go, we were right the whole time. Let's just get it out. We were right.
We were right. We were right the whole time. We said it. We called it. We knew it. I feel like it was done really well. We were still right.
We were still right. I told Keiki when it was going on, I looked at her and I said, I'm a little sad that we were right.
Yeah, I was kind of sad too, because, we did talk to Faran and she was like, just when you think you know who it is, you don't know. So I was really trying to dig in my bag, to see who I suspected. So I really didn't think that we were right, just because I was hoping for a surprise. But
we were right. Yeah. So let's start this off. So this episode opens right where we left off. Faran is diving into the pool to save Kelly, giving her CPR. So it looks like, Bloody Rose didn't shank her. There was no stabbing. It was just like probably a hit on the head and threw her in the pool, is my guess. She wakes up. They have this beautiful apology moment. She tells the girls that her mom, it can't be her mom because she locked her in the prayer closet. And they're all like, we're going to unpack that later.
I had two moments during that scene that I really loved. I loved when Faran said, well, it seemed like the right thing to do. And Kelly's like, well, for what it's worth, yes, saving my life was correct.
She's like, I could have gone after Bloody Rose, but I didn't. And she's like, well, thank you for not doing that.
Yeah.
And also just, yes, the way that all of the girls were like, okay, that's a lot to unpack.
Yeah. So we'll talk about it later. And I love that they go to her house, like, we're going to just check, because you never know. We're not going to trust it. Thank you for not trusting it, girls. And Mama is still locked in that closet, and Kelly kind of just dismisses everyone. And she's like, we have a lot to talk about. So you shouldn't be here for this. Mm-hmm. And then we head off to girl dinner. So what I'm calling girl dinner. And Imogen. Girl dinner. So Imogen tells the girls that Dr. Sullivan is missing, and about her car being filled with roses. Because if you remember last week, we ended with a couple of big cliffhangers, right? And that was one of them. And now they are in a spiral of who can they trust. And they're like, it could be, Kelly's mom. It's not, we now know. It could be Dr. Sullivan because they're grieving mothers. They're all in this world. And then we get this weird thing. Mouse is like, just so you know, Bloody Rose, the real Rose Waters, came to my house and was chilling with my Lola. And the way they explained this away, I actually thought was lame. It's just because they were friends, because their daughters were friends and they were old friends. And Rose Waters decided to come and sit on Lola's couch because she knew she was there.
Yeah.
Where has she been this whole time?
This whole time.
Chilling, unhoused. Girl, she hasn't checked up on Lola.
Girl, you jumped off a bridge.
Like, why?
So sus. Just really not it.
It was incredibly thin.
Yeah, it was like we built this storyline and we don't know how to get out of it because, we've got Lola sundowning. She became a follower of Bloody Rose. There's like this whole thing, and that's how they're going to explain it away. Like, okay.
I really needed better closure about Lola's storyline. I have concerns.
Yes. Yes. And also, Mouse, how long are your parents going to be on vacation?
It's been like 30 days at this point, right? Something like that. Because
what type of cruise is this? Y'all out here taking a 9-month cruise, like your kid is still in the middle of high school. Like,
yeah. I don't know. It's fine. And I love that they're like, Rose is like, all these children are following me and I don't know why. Sorry, there's just like so much with that. And I love that Mouse is like, I took her to, they're like, well, what did you do with Rose? And she's like, well, I took her to Crazy Joe's train yard. And I'm like, why all of these choices, kids? Choices. So they go to the Crazy Joe's train and she's no longer there. And there's rose petals everywhere, a la Dr. Sullivan, right? So now they're like, oh, they're kidnapping moms. So they run home to see if Tabitha's mom's okay. She's just chilling on the couch with her wine, watching her stories. However, she was given a bouquet of roses, and now it feels like a threat.
Yeah, it's a calling card for sure. Everyone's panicking.
Mm-hmm.
So now everybody's crossing every mother off their list.
Yeah. The next day, there is a riot at the Ravenswood Penitentiary where Archie is held, because we remember he is sentenced to death, but he's being held at the penitentiary first. Because it's going to go through an appeals. It's going to be years before this actually happens. And there is a riot. And on the news, it says, however, the murderer Archie Waters was killed during it. And I'm like, absolutely, he wasn't.
No, he wasn't.
Ain't no way.
I've seen enough horror movies.
Really?
Not, okay.
The fact that Imogen and Tabitha alone with her horror movie knowledge is very relieved.
Right. Tabitha has seen both incarnations of the Halloween franchise. Like, he don't ever die during the prison riot.
No, it didn't. And didn't they set this up at the beginning of the season where this was one of their fears that he was going to get in the penitentiary and somehow get out? How did we forget this? I didn't. And I forget everything.
And I feel like these girls should know better that no one is dead until you see their body thrown into the ground.
This episode was truly like a classic horror movie where in the third act, the girl who has been smart the entire movie just starts taking stupid pills and making bad decisions.
Exactly. And then Deputy Maroon is mentioned again, as I have been corrected by our people in the comments about who she is. And she goes to check it out to see if Archie is alive. And I'm like, now I think they're in cahoots. Anyway, this is like next season 3, when we get it, because this show is like the #1 show on HBOMax. Anywho, where am I at? Notes, brain. So Kelly shows up to share what she and her mom discussed, that everything's going to be okay, and that Kelly's mom is now pointing fingers at Mrs. Langsbury, Chip's mom, who we've been pointing fingers at since day 1. And so Imogen and Tabitha go to talk to her. And like under the guise of like Tabitha bringing Chip's belongings that were in her house to his mother. And I'm like, oh, girl, you still had that?
Right? Like,
right?
What if it was just an empty box and they hoped that she didn't open it in front of them?
Oh my God, that'd have been so funny. And then Mrs. Langsbury is like so happy Archie Waters is dead. And she like admits how consumed she was through her grief and her anger. And then on her shrine, because people like shrines in this episode, in this series, on her shrine to Chip, there is a bouquet of roses for her. And she's like, I found them this morning on my doorstep. So now, I personally did not think, I thought this was a red herring immediately because Mrs. Langsbury has been my #1 since day 1.
And I saw her roses as soon as they did that side pan before she even said anything about it. I was like, is that a bouquet?
Well, and especially she specifically says her roses didn't come with a note. And Tabitha's mom's roses very specifically came with a note. And that's when I was like, oh, this is a red herring. They're misdirecting us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. So jumping into real life, the girls have failed their pre-exams and they have to, and they're like, you mean when we were fully distracted last week when we were all almost murdered? Okay, cool. And so if they have to study, they have to pass. And I felt like this was such a hilarious moment to kind of re-ground what was going on. Because like, don't forget, it's summer school.
It's summer school. We're in summer school.
And then Noah, this also has like such a terrible payoff to me. And I'm saying this like I enjoyed this episode, but there's a couple things that I was like, why did we do this? So Noah is discussing everything with Jen, and Jen isn't sure that they should only be looking for women. And she starts pointing fingers at Christian and at Johnny, right? And Noah then does the typical girlfriend thing and is like, oh, when talking with her friends, you know, are we sure it's these people? And I love how fast Imogen and Tabitha are freaking offended. And then Tabitha's like, we're looking for a woman, so it could be Jen. And then she gets.
I will say, there was a moment during this episode when Jen did this, and I was like, that's suspicious, because I've thought she's suspicious from day one.
Yes.
So I was very much like, you're pointing fingers, girl. There are 4 more pointing back at you.
Mm-hmm. And also, it's just like, okay, if we're opening it up to everything, you're a suspect too. How are your hands clean? You're literally a thief. Like you've done crime. Like
you mysteriously showed up at the end of Noah's trial to help to rescue her.
Yeah. Like in the end, like spoiler alert, if you haven't watched it, Jen has nothing to, at this point has nothing to do with any of this. And I think that's a mistake. But I think it's because they wanted to shoehorn this new relationship in with Noah to have another queer relationship. I guess maybe, I don't want to say traditional is the right word, but more like aesthetically looking. Does that make sense? Since Ash is very passing. And so if you were to just look at Mouse and Ash, you wouldn't think they were queer. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get that.
So I don't know, because the majority of the discourse I have seen online is with us that Noah, like Jen is trash. Not that Noah needs to be with Sean, but like we can't.
Noah needs to be alone and work on herself.
Yes.
Yeah, Noah has issues.
People brought up Sean being addicted to steroids in season 1. I was like, yes, but you know what? Jen stole from people her job, almost getting her fired, stole from Sean's house. You know what I mean? Like there's
stole from her parents' house.
No one needs to do the inner work until she stops choosing these terrible partners.
Look, it is what it is, but we'll see what happens for next season. I think not having Jen be part of this was a mistake, because it would have been like a secret sibling, you know, like some sort of relationship that she would have been the great outsider like season 1, instead of it just being 2 people that everyone already kind of guessed.
I also saw somewhere online someone say it's not Jen because Jen's like a victim of circumstance like Noah. And I was like, no, she's not. She's from an affluent family. She fucked up her whole life on purpose. She didn't have to be bad. Like what happened to Noah was from an addict mom. Like they are not the same people. Let's not start comparing apples and oranges. Like, okay, they're both fruit.
They are both fruit.
But like they are not under the same guise and situation. Let's be real clear.
Why can't fruit be compared? Sorry, little Dicky. That's where my brain goes. It's like apples to oranges. Why can't fruit be compared? Okay, back to the show. Sorry, ADD brain.
Yeah.
So Tabitha and Imogen do their due diligence, and I actually thought these moments were great. So Imogen is at the ice cream shop. Everything like, but she's like, "Who you texting?" And she becomes like crazy girlfriend, right? Which I think is so cute. And he's like, here's my fucking phone, bitch. She's like, wait. And she's like, who else? And then everything's fine. And she's like, oh, I'll get the ice cream because we all know Johnny loves his ice cream. And so she goes to get the refill. And then she sees dead bodies in the freezer, grabs a wrench and knocks his ass out, which I understand.
I understand, but there was a moment when she was swinging at him and he's trying to calm her down. And I was like, how many weapons is this poor boy going to have to take out of her hands?
Exactly. I was like, what has he been through where this man is not afraid of women with weapons in their hands? Maybe he has a mama who just picks up anything to beat him with it. Because, like, I have that mama.
Yeah, I was waiting for the turn, though, for her to, like, hand it to him, and then he takes the wrench and, like, the switch, you know?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's but didn't happen. Knocked him out. And then Tabitha goes to Christian's house and she's like begging. She's like, please, nothing suspicious.
No, first of all, she calls his old theater and she's like, oh, Christian Peele. And at this moment, it's the first time I got suspicious of Christian because I was like, Peele, Jordan Peele, a horror director? It's a fake name.
I said the same thing, girl.
She did. And then she gets to his house and in the drawer, and she finds the realistic Davy mask, which we all thought for Imogen's trial, it was someone wearing her mom's mask. And in the chaos, she could possibly think it was real. And then she's like, oh, shit, it's Christian, and starts running up the stairs. And there's Bloody Rose with a knife, scares her, and she falls and like gets knocked out. And then we get to Mouse, because of course Mouse is like, I don't have a suspicious significant other because Ash is perfect, as they all said to her. And so she's like, I'll just look at spooky spaghetti because the reckoning is coming. And so she sees this like teaser of what's to come, and it was like people stabbing bodies. And I swear the one by the car was like Sandy. Right? Isn't that, or was it supposed to be a stranger? Because I was like, someone filmed them.
I couldn't tell who it was supposed to be, but I was like, damn, they just really got this snuff film online. Okay.
Yeah.
Right?
That's what I thought. And I was like, I mean, they didn't give us any good angles to see who was being killed.
Right.
But also, Mouse, you're responsible for this. Get off of spooky spaghetti.
Girl, you started it. And then the teacher actually came through and figured out, the computer teacher, where these servers were hiding for spooky spaghetti. And they are at the Orpheum Theater, the Orpheum Theater. So of course they run over there to confront Christian, asking where Tabitha is. He's like, what are you even talking about? I don't know what's happening. Because people forget that there is another person who was working at the Orpheum. But they're like, he left town. No.
For so his friend who's an intern at 824 in Los Angeles.
Ain't a real job.
I know. So they go to see to the servers, and they find a note that says, hot in here, or is it just me? Check out my movie screening in room 3. I was like, we love Dr. Seuss. And I love the Faran's like, I didn't know we were looking for Dr. Seuss this whole freaking time. Very funny. I appreciate her.
One thing about Black people is we gonna crack a little jokey joke, okay? It don't matter how bad the situation is. We gonna make a little jokey joke.
So when they go into the theater, they see that a live stream is happening where Tabitha has been taken, and Faran immediately recognizes it as the church, and they go to try and save her. However, there are Bloody Rose followers that look like they're going to murder them or just beat them. We are unsure. So they lock themselves in that screening room, head out the exit while Christian is holding the door. And they run and call Jen to help them steal a car.
Which this is the part where I was like, okay, now the whole Jen thing finally makes sense because somebody had to teach them how to steal a car.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, okay, here we are. And her response was actually very cute. She's like, it would be my honor. Like, she's like, I thought that was very funny. Also, FaceTime, girls. Like, do you have enough wires exposed? I've watched enough TV. Like, FaceTime her and show her. Anyway.
Listen, I FaceTime my mama when I'm at the grocery store because I'm like, which state do you prefer, this one or this one? Like,
same.
I FaceTime y'all for stupider
all the time when people are asking me when I'm asking people to show me how to do something.
Yeah. It's fine. Whatever. So Tabitha, a lot of this now happens like back and forth, right? So I'm going to try and make it make sense. So Tabitha wakes up in what looks like a confession booth that says, confess your sins, spray painted on the wall. So she opens it up and she's like Bloody Rose for the little confession door. And there's a woman chilling with her face skinned off. So I'm like, that's gross and creepy. So good job on that. She breaks out of the confessional and is surrounded by masks that are on pikes. So like the crazy beheaded, I'm assuming masks. I can't imagine it's a bunch of actual people. Like, I don't, but,
I thought they were all masks, and I thought the woman in the confession booth was Rose Waters.
like the real Rose Waters?
That's what I thought, but I couldn't
she
tell
could, it
because of
could have
face and
been, but
skin.
I was very unclear. It was,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And
Viewers, tell us who you thought it was, because we don't know.
I don't know either. And then also dead Pastor Malachi. He's the other dead body that I did recognize as well.
Oh, it took me a while to get there until they pointed it out. I
Yeah,
just thought it was
because
some
his
dead guy.
eyeball was missing.
Oh, yeah.
Right in the eye. And pictures like scrolls, like wall scrolls.
Oh, well, that's the part
Tapestries?
where I knew that picture that we've been talking about had been leaked, or that they should not have posted it as early as they did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all the girls' trials hung up on the wall.
Yeah, it confirmed that photo, which I was like, maybe that was what they wanted, people to talk about it. I don't know. So then a handful of Bloody Rose Waters people appear, and one is dressed as Archie. So Tabitha is like surrounded by all these people. They're screaming at her to confess her sins, and she's like, "I'm no fool, Mrs. Langsbury. That's you, bitch, because this is too much." And she's like, "It is." And then the other one dressed in Archie Waters is Wes, who we also called.
Yeah.
So this reveal in that moment, I was like, we were right, but also,
Right.
damn it, we were right.
Right?
I don't know. I like it and I don't like it because it was very obvious, which makes sense why when the girls were talking about it in interviews, they had all guessed it. And the writers were like, how did you guess it when you haven't? I'm like, well, because all the breadcrumbs were so clear.
Yeah, it was kind of obvious. And I will say that the deeper we get into talking about this, one thing I appreciated about it is, to me, Wes is like a horrifying villain in the way that Gaston or like Frollo from Hunchback is, because he's just regular guys who think that they're something special and are not getting what they deserve. And that is the most terrifying thing you can do.
And that's why you choose the
see
bear.
what she don't exist. Exactly.
Yeah.
This is why you choose the bear.
100%. Because if you're in the woods with Wes or a bear, I'm choosing the bear.
Yeah. And Wes has been sus from season 1. And also a grown man reacting like this over a child.
Because she is a child. Wes is in his 30s. People forget this. The grown man.
A grown man reacting like this over a child's comment, like even willing to like go toe to toe to her with like videos, is a sick joke. Like I would have been like, okay, just do your job, Tabitha.
Yeah. But I will say the actor who plays Wes killed it. I thought he was really good, incredibly menacing, and like made this weird storyline incredibly believable.
Oh, I think it really showcased his range. And I really felt like this episode in particular, I was like, this is his breakout. Like if his phone is not ringing off the hook after this episode for more casting, someone's made a mistake.
I know, it's because he's on Broadway, Jordan. He's busy in Moulin Rouge.
Which is also great. His phone needs to be ringing off the hook.
Absolutely. So this whole thing is because Mrs. Langsbury cannot accept that Chip is a rapist and cannot accept like the truth about him in any way, shape, or form. And they give Tabitha the ultimatum to say on camera to everyone in the live stream, because Wes is making his live stream movie, that she lied. And I am so glad. Like, this is when Tabitha stands up. I'm also like, there's a whole ass baby. Like, you can't say, like, what?
I was literally watching it and I was like, shit, just DNA test Imogen's baby. Fuck.
Exactly. I'm like, sure. Like, but then the mom would be like, it was consensual, right? When they had a child together. But that's like,
yeah.
But that's not what happened. And she literally stands her ground as a survivor of Chip Langsbury. And I think that this is a great moment for her. And then we learn that Wes, after Chip's death, he and Mrs. Langsbury bonded. And he kind of became a replacement, the new son for her. And like and then Jordan, I don't know if you remember, but I asked Keiki when they flash back, he's like, Chip and I talked about making a horror movie once. And it flashes back to him being like, you know, yeah, but it wouldn't be cool to actually like kill someone on camera. And Chip's like, no, bro.
No.
And like walks away. That scene was so familiar to me. And I was like, is that a flash to season 1?
I don't think it's a Flash to season 1, but it was filmed very similarly. Like it was whoever did it, they did a very good job matching everything about season 1.
Yeah.
Because I don't remember that, and I don't think it was a flashback. But I do think that was very like typical. Again, that scene is why we choose the bear, because how many times have men said something just incredibly disturbing in public, and like the rest of us are like, no, that's not cool. And they're like, it was a joke.
And you're like, okay. Yeah, exactly. And like Chip like walks away because Chip, fortunately, not into murdering people. He's into assaulting them. And he's into graping them, but not murdering them.
He has boundaries.
He has
draws
boundaries.
the line.
He got a line.
Boundaries. You can't murder them.
So
this is so random, but this reminds me of a story of a friend who like went on a date with a guy, and they were on the beach, and he was like, if you found like human remains on the beach, like perfectly eaten alive, just hanging out, like just a skull, would you keep it or would you tell someone? And she was like, I'd tell someone. And he was like, oh, I'd keep it. And I was like, don't go out with him.
No. Don't ever see him again.
That sounds like a personal story of someone checking in to see if they did something wrong, you know, and you're just like,
that's
what
how you do. And besides all of the ethical things that are just wrong with that, also that's how you get cursed, bro.
Yeah.
We're currently in a watch of Supernatural that Kiki's never seen, and she's learning curses.
Curses.
They follow the bones. Sorry, where am I? Oh, Wes wants to live in infamy. So he doesn't want to get away with this. He wants people to know it's him and know what he's doing. And he's like, Mrs. Langsbury was wearing them. It's the whole monologue, right? He monologues for such a long time with his villain monologue. He's like, this is why. This is how.
The whole time I was like, how are the girls, even after they steal this car, and I'm sure Noah is going to book it and drive like a bat out of hell.
100%.
It's still all the way across town. How are they going to make it in time? And then Wes was just yapping.
I said, why are you, like in my notes, why are you mansplaining your infamy to me?
He's like mansplaining his entire diabolical plan, Kiki. He's got to make sure the people know.
Like literally you could say one sentence and I'd be like, okay, that's dumb. And then like move on. But no, he has to explain why it's so important.
And then Tabitha doesn't give two shits anymore. And she runs and busts through the window. And he's like, I was hoping she'd do that. And then we have this amazing like cut back and forth, right, of the girls. But Tabitha running through the woods, being the ultimate final girl, using that self-defense class to take down the minions with GoPros was iconic.
It was so good.
It was so good. I loved that. And like Wes, I gotta back up because when Wes goes, and I looked at Kiki and I was like, I'm so wrong for this. When she jumps out the window and he goes, there's my final girl. I was like, no, that's like the equivalent of a book talk man being like, good girl. And I was like,
no, it was real hot. And that actor is, remember, I said this during season 1. You can go back and watch our recaps of season 1. Wes is a very attractive actor, but the character of Wes is a creepy bitch.
Yeah.
I told Sarah, I was like, you're not wrong, but ew.
Yeah.
Like, why? What's wrong with me? Oh my God. It's like this equivalent of Billy Loomis licking his fingers and being like,
yeah.
You know?
I'm not attracted to him. The parasites in me are attracted to him.
I'm so glad. I'm like, I can't be alone. I know Jordan's going to be with us on this. It was rude. So Wes keeps monologuing. He's like this continually. And says like, yes, my crew built the cabin. So the Rose Waters cabin wasn't even real. It was a set.
Which I feel like we did talk about this when we called it earlier. We were like, why is this out here? It's got to be fake.
Yeah. And then Tabby's like, thanks for this pitchfork. And he tries to call her bluff. And she's like, fuck no. And runs him through. And I thought that was beautiful. I was like, good.
I loved the way that was filmed because she was just like, nope.
Yeah.
And just the shot of the pitchfork going through the wall, like A+.
Yeah. And then her walking out as the sun's coming up. It's so like iconic final girl horror movie moment.
Uh-huh.
And like the girls finally find her and they go in the cabin to like check, they're like, is Wes dead? And she's like, I don't know. And they go and we get that final scare, which is so good. I knew it was coming and it still made me jump.
You forgot Faran knocking out Miss Langsbury, which I also loved.
Oh yeah.
She punched the shit out of her.
She sent her to bed.
Like, you're right. I did forget that.
Because they get to the church and they're like, she's not here.
She pops out of the confession booth like she's gonna kill somebody, and Imogen gets kind of scared and freezes. And then Faran is like, no, one for all and all for one, and knocks the shit out of her. And
then all of a sudden they're looking at the live stream again and they're like, it's the cabin, you know.
Yeah. And this is also why I loved the jump scare at the end, because it gave Imogen that moment of redemption where Wes comes back for his final scare and Imogen punches the shit out of him.
It's so good. And then they hear a bunch of rustling noises in the cabin in a closet, and that is where Dr. Sullivan has been kidnapped and put. And then we hear the sirens as it fades to black. I'm like, what a great horror movie ending. And then we cut to 2 weeks later. The girls have taken their final exams. They are back in therapy. Christian, who because Imogen knocked him out and put him in the freezer, right? So this whole time I'm like, is he going to freeze to death? Who is going to find him? Someone, not Christian, I'm sorry, Johnny. I was like, who is going to find him? But he's alive. He's fine. And he's safe. He has all his toes. Kelly went to save him. Thank goodness. Wes is alive. And Mrs. Langsbury, and they are both arrested. So they are alive and in jail, which we know this police department is not the best. Too many people get free all the time. And Dr. Sullivan is like, do you guys want to continue their sessions? And the girls say no, they are ready to pull the plug on the final girls support group, which is one of my favorite books, if you two haven't read it.
Oh, no, oh my God, I'm blanking on the name of that author, but he, I feel like, is our modern Stephen King. He is the new king of horror books. All of his books are absolutely amazing. Final Girl Support Group. My Best Friend's Exorcism is one of my favorite books of all time. Don't watch the movie. It's not that great.
It's trash. That movie's bad.
The Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires. Like everything he writes is gold.
Yeah. I was like, this book, Jordan, I think you were the one who told me to read it. Even.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the first book I read was of his was the Southern Book Club's Vampires, which I talked about in our Twilight episodes, actually. So highly recommend.
Yeah, it's a good book. If y'all haven't read it, do it. It was just one of those moments, when they say the title of something in a movie and you're like, they said it. And then the girls this is super cute. The girls to celebrate surviving again get a tattoo that says FGE Energy, Final Girl Energy. And I thought that was really adorable.
I know, like a little knife with a little blood hanging from it. Very cute.
And I love that they included Kelly in it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kelly is going to be, everyone keeps calling her the Mona. So I'm guessing Mona probably wasn't one of the original Pretty Little Liars and kind of becomes one.
Not really, but it's the same thing as Kelly.
Okay. Got it. And then they get their test results and they all pass. They are all headed to junior year to slay another day.
And I just want to say,
was anybody worried about them passing?
No.
I was just like, you guys only, like, your mind wasn't there, but like these tests are so easy. There's no way you actually really
honestly, there was a moment where I thought, like in the middle of the episode where it said that they failed the practice exams, I thought that this was probably part of like A's scheme. And I thought that A was probably just switching out their test results for some reason, like to continue to psychologically fuck with them or something. Because there's no way, these girls are too smart and too resourceful. There's no way they failed those tests.
Yeah.
Also, justice for Johnny, because I believed in him the whole time. And he's been so emotionally aware. And I love that he still had the emotional awareness to be like, Imogen, I love you, but you hit me with the wrench and froze me. We got to break up.
But you can still see the yearning. His yearning is so good because they wrap it up like that. Tabitha and Christian are not going to make a movie. They want to do their own story. And it's a cute cutaway of the girls like wearing masks, like as like villains, which I think is fun. Dr. Sullivan, how we finish this. Dr. Sullivan's book is going to be published. However, they can't do the unauthorized. They need the girls to sign off on it. And she calls them narcissists and willing to take money, which I feel like is so fucked up and out of left field. However, then she gets her comeuppance. The lights go out, the door creeps open, and Archie Waters is alive. She gets on her knees to beg him to know if he is the one who killed her son, to give her some closure. He doesn't answer, and instead shanks her, stabs her, dead.
What?
And that is how the season ends. So Archie is back, y'all. Archie is back.
He never
Which I feel like means we're getting a third season.
We have to. With him, I think it's so much better that way. And hopefully then they bring the moms back, because I really liked the added mom storyline in season 1.
Yeah.
And having the girls kind of like work
flashbacks
together.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was also surprised at the end of this because, the cops did show up. So, she killed Wes. Like, it's a whole thing. They did not.
He's alive. Wes is alive. He ain't dead.
Well, I know, but they didn't involve the parents at all at the end, like they did the season before. Like, y'all hid this from us. They did it again. They hid the serious thing from their parents again.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, we're not going to have that conversation.
Oh, Mrs. Hayworth is going to beat the shit out of them kids. The sandal is coming off.
Overall, I thought this season was really solid. I think they did a good job with the season 2 and not hardcore hitting a sophomore slump. I think the ending is going to be polarizing, like it kind of was internally for us. We enjoyed it, but also wish it wasn't.
Yeah. It was, I think it was really great. And honestly, it made me miss Cruel Summer, because now we're done.
I'm so sad. Yeah. If there are other shows out there, y'all, we love talking TV. As you can tell, if you've checked out our channel, we review all things. Angst is not one thing, and that's what I don't think people realize. It covers a genre. I mean, literally, the Fall Guy, Ryan Gosling, is singing Taylor Swift. Is there anything more angsty than a man yearning for a woman he can't have? So, you know what I mean? If there are shows out there, or there's movies out there, or books out there, like I said, we do a book podcast too, that you want us to check out and talk about. We love doing this with you guys. So let us know. You guys got anything else?
Idea. It's called Powerless. I'm kind of liking it.
Oh yeah, that's all over my TikTok feed. It's on my TBR.
I'm not done yet, but when I finish, we'll see if it's worth it. But it's giving like Hunger Games meets Fourth Wing meets Star Wars.
A lot of meats.
I mean, I know me and you already read Divine Rivals, but Sarah.
Yeah.
I could do it. All right, guys. Well, I guess until the next one, we'll see you guys later.
Bye.
Bye.